Hey Money Guy family, it's your host Brian Preston with Mr. Bo Hansen, back with another episode of Ask the Money Guy.
That's right. You guys have financial questions. We've got your financial answers right here in the Tesla. Go out to your favorite social, use the hashtag AskTheMoneyGuy, or you can go to our website, moneyguy.com, and ask a question right there.
It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
So Brian, today's question comes from the Money Guy website, and this is from Robert. And this is what Robert says. I have a question regarding savings accounts. Since we all know that standard big banks offer virtually nothing in terms of interest rates on savings accounts,
True.
I was wondering your view on online banks. I'm not too familiar with these, but I know you have mentioned them in the past, that these online banks offer the most bang for your buck for interest rates. Are there certain banks that you would recommend, or are there reliable resources I can utilize in order to research on my own? I want to be cautious if I'm going to be depositing any large sum of money in one of these, and I want to know that my money is safe. Thanks.
Man, that is a great question. And I got to tell you, guys, I'm going to give you some numbers here. This could single-handedly change your financial situation. And I know that sounds like a bold statement. It really is, but think about this, Bo. Let's go ahead and talk about this. The national average, I pulled this from Value Penguin. I just did a Google search, found an article from 2019, which is we're at the beginning of. And this is what the national average is for savings rates and money markets. For savings rates at a brick and mortar, the national average is 0.09%.
0.09%.
For the national average on money markets is 0.16%.
So we're talking about like fractions of a percentage here, like just tiny.
So let's talk about this. So for a $50,000 savings account,
okay,
if you only make 0.09%, that's $45 a year. If
for
you make
$50,000, your interest is only $45 a year.
If you have the money market, the national average is 0.16, that's $80 a year. So that potentially could be a night out for dinner.
Right.
But it doesn't really change your financial life. Yeah. Think about this. The national, this is, I went and did a Google search because we don't do product recommendations on the Money Guy Show. I think that gets into a gray area, but I did go pull an article from the Motley Fool of the best rates out there, and I went and cherry picked them for names that I recognize as being industry leaders. And there was American Express at 2.1%.
Far different than 0.09 or 0.16.
Barclays online savings was 2.2.
Right.
Ally was 2.2, and Discover Bank was 2.1.
All above 2%, which is unbelievably larger than what the average is.
So if you take that same $50,000, do the 2.2%, we're now talking about $1,100 of interest in 1 year. Compare that to $45 and $80. One of these is not like the other.
I mean, that could be a mortgage payment or a weekend vacation, or it could. I mean, that's substantial savings, and that's not doing anything. That's not picking investments. That's not trying to go game the stock market. That's just letting your cash, your emergency funds, sit and work for you.
So the short answer is yes, you should consider looking at online savings accounts. But let's talk about how do you do this and how do you protect yourself on doing this. The first thing I want to tell you about protecting yourself is making sure you don't fall for the bait and switch tactic. Now, Bo has an experience with this.
I knew you were going here.
I love to pick on you.
Going here.
Tell them what happened with your bait and switch tactic that you fell prey to.
So one of the things that we used to do, and this is back about a decade ago, is we would always go to bankrate.com and we would check to see who the highest interest payers were. Well, I knew that Brian had just started a brand new online savings account, and I don't remember what his was paying, but it was, let's say, for instance, it was 1%. I don't know. I'm kind of
back then it was probably like 0.7,
yeah,
0.8,
something like that.
Because this is a while back.
So I went on and I tried to find someone who could beat that, because in most things I like to see if I can do better than Brian. So I think the one that I went with was paying like 1/10 of a percentage point higher. So if his was 0.7, the one I went was 0.8. So I was so excited. I opened the online savings account. I put money into it. I funded it, had my emergency fund sitting there. And I kid you not, no less than 5 months later, it had dropped to like 0.3%, cut in half what I was originally getting.
There is a trend within the online savings community where there are some opportunistic companies that will go out there and create a rate that is well above everybody else, but then over time, they will either quit raising the rate or they will actually drop the rate. I don't want you to fall victim to that. So I always tell you, when you go and look at that list of top rate, yielding funds, make sure you're choosing one. And I specifically chose ones when I gave you those examples from Motley Fool that are ones that I recognize from years of being industry leaders on the online savings platforms. Because there are others, I noticed when I was looking at the list, there are other online savings platforms that are paying close to 2.5% right now, but I didn't recognize those names. And I was like, man, I wonder if these are bait and switch tactics where you get in to try to get that high yield. And then long term, maybe in the short term it works well, but in the long term, they completely change and the rules on you. And that's less than ideal. So let's talk about the second thing. And this is actually his question is, how do you protect yourself? If I'm giving them a large sum of money, everybody knows about FDIC insurance.
That's right.
Bo, what is FDIC insurance protection?
So that's government-funded insurance that essentially says if you have money on deposit in a banking institution up to certain dollar limits, you are guaranteed against the failure of that institution. So if you have $100,000 in an account at a brick and mortar, and that brick and mortar goes out of business, your $100,000 is protected and is insured and governed by the full faith and credit of the federal government.
So if I'm thinking about, $250,000 is the limit per account registration type, I would want to make sure that my online savings bank is part of this program, offers this federally provided insurance. So how do we make sure that that rate that you see the awesome number on is truly protected? All you have to do is go to fdic.gov. That's the government website for them. And they have a great tool. You'll see it right there on the homepage called Bank Find. If you click on that Bank Find link, they actually let you type in all kind of stuff. You can type in, and do a search. You can type in the domain address that the web address that you found the deal at. You can type the name of the bank, and it'll do a quick search, and it will tell you indeed if that bank is provided protection from the federal government on up to $250,000. That's going to give you that peace of mind to know, hey, this is worthwhile and what I ought to consider doing. And then go out there, make that cash work for you guys. This is huge. I mean, the difference, I just did a $50,000. What if your cash reserves is $100,000? I mean, you can distinctly see that this could change your financial life and let every member of your army of dollar bills be working for you, including your cash. So get to work, keep the questions coming. I'm your host, Brian Preston. Mr. Bo Hansen will come back to you soon with another Ask the Money Guy.